What is the secret to understanding the human mind and behavior? If you think the key is in childhood and trauma hidden deep inside your unconscious, did you know that you are a Freudian? Sigmund Freud is arguably the most influential psychologist of all time. In this video, we will see how Freud shaped our way of thinking about the human mind and behavior. This is the Introduction to Psychology with Dr. Shaw. Hey, this is Dr. Shaw, the Japanese behaviorist. We see everywhere this idea that our childhood trauma shapes our thoughts and behavior as adults. Every superhero and every villain in the movies has an origin story about their childhood trauma. In our daily lives, we blame our parents for making us feel miserable as adults. And we also believe that we can heal this trauma once we confess it to a therapist. This is pretty much how we understand human psychology today. But people in medieval and ancient times didn't have the same understanding of the human mind. Take, for example, an American custom to say God bless you when people sneeze. As a Japanese who didn't grow up in the US, I couldn't really understand why people say that all the time. In Japan, when people sneeze, it is a sign that someone is gossiping about you. It turned out Europeans in medieval times believed that sneezing was a sign that a demon was possessing your body. So when you say God bless you, you can get rid of the demon out of your body thanks to the power of God. This sounds ridiculous to us today because we understand sneezing as a physiological reflex.
This is gonna cost me.
But people in medieval times had a good reason to believe in it. They believed humans are 100% conscious and totally in control of their thoughts and behavior. So anything that is out of their control, like sneezing, is a sign that something else is in control. That something else was a demon.
God, the Holy Spirit corrupt you.
This supernatural way of understanding human beings persisted until about 100 years ago. That is, until Sigmund Freud showed up. So how did Freud change all that? Freud was a young Austrian neurologist. In 1886, his colleague Joseph Breuer introduced him to a patient known as Anna O. Anna was diagnosed with hysteria. She had paralysis of the right side of her body, as well as vision, hearing, and speech problems. Basically, she was not able to move her right side of the body, and she was partially blind and deaf. But the interesting thing was that Anna was physically perfectly healthy. Freud was puzzled by how Anna, whose arms, legs, eyes, and ears were intact and functioning perfectly well, still could not move her limbs and blind and deaf. Was it the work of an evil spirit? Freud, as a physician, didn't want to believe in that. There, Joseph Breuer showed him something interesting. When Breuer hypnotized Anna, she was able to move her body and see and hear things. Moreover, Anna started recalling her childhood trauma under hypnosis. And when she did, her symptoms completely disappeared. But when she woke up from hypnosis, her symptoms also returned and she could no longer recall her trauma. A very strange phenomenon. It was clearly not the work of the evil spirit because you don't expect the demon to come in and out of Anna's body during hypnosis. Something else was in charge. How did Freud solve this puzzle? Freud proposed three important ideas to solve this puzzle. One is the idea of the unconscious, the second is the idea of the trauma, and the third is the idea of childhood. First, Freud proposed that humans have the unconscious mind. This idea of the unconscious was brand new at the time, as people commonly believed that the human mind was 100% conscious. Freud said that the unconscious mind controls the human thoughts, desires, behaviors, and even memories. Anna's unconscious is causing her paralysis and blindness without her knowing it. It was not a demon's act. Second, it was the trauma that motivated the unconscious to cause Anna's paralysis and blindness. When Anna's unconscious surfaced during hypnosis, Anna was able to talk about her sexual abuse experience, which she did not remember when she was conscious. Freud thought the unconscious repressed Anna's trauma deep inside her heart, and as a reaction to that, it caused her paralysis and blindness. Under hypnosis, Anna's unconscious didn't repress her memory, and therefore her hysteria symptoms also disappeared. Third, Freud also discovered that Anna's trauma had a severe effect on her hypnosis symptoms if the trauma took place in her early childhood. That is, Freud observed that trauma in childhood impacted the mind and behavior of an adult. With this, Freud discovered childhood. Yes, he literally discovered the concept of childhood. Before Freud, people thought of a child as a different animal. They believed that adult humans are completely separate beings from a child. A child is more like a dog or a cat in medieval times. But Freud discovered that your experience as a child influences who you are as an adult. There is a continuum from childhood to adulthood. This is what we now call development. Freud hypothesized that Anna's hysteria was caused by her childhood trauma repressed deep inside the unconscious. During hypnosis, the unconscious surfaced and the traumatic memory became available, easing Anna's symptoms. However, once Anna came out of hypnosis and became conscious, her unconscious returned to the depths of her mind with a traumatic memory, and the hysteria symptoms came back. Based on this idea, Freud devised a method to uncover the human unconscious and traumatic experiences to treat patients like Anna. He named this method Psychoanalysis. With psychoanalysis, Freud invented psychotherapy. Now, you can understand why Freud is the greatest psychologist in our history. He single-handedly discovered the unconscious, the trauma, and the childhood, and invented psychotherapy. In addition to getting rid of the supernatural explanation of the human mind and behavior. Based on his psychoanalytic theory, Freud completely revolutionized Western civilization.
I started as a neurologist trying to bring relief to my neurotic patients. I discovered some important new facts about the unconscious, the role of instinctual urges, and so on. Out of these findings grew a new science, psychoanalysis, a part of psychology, as a new method of treatment of the neurosis. I had to pay heavily for this bit of good luck. People did not believe in my facts and thought my theories unsavory. Resistance was strong and unrelenting. In the end, I succeeded but the struggle is not yet over.
Moreover, Freud proposed this idea in the early 1900s. This idea that we take as common sense today is only about 100 years old. That is the difference between Captain America and Iron Man. When Captain America was growing up, Freudian ideas were not around. But when Iron Man was growing up, Freudian idea became common sense. The difference? Captain America does not have a childhood trauma origin story, whereas Iron Man has. Captain America disciplines the child, whereas Iron Man is never tough with a child. No wonder why they can't understand each other. It's all because of Freud. In our daily lives, when we think of people with mental disorders, we automatically associate them with having childhood trauma. The very idea that we should protect our children is so that children can avoid developing trauma that later would impact their mental status. The idea that we should go to see a therapist when we have difficulty in our lives also comes from Freud. It's pretty amazing to think how Freud's theory completely changed our way of thinking about human beings, and it was only about our grandparents or great-grandparents' times. I will also talk about how Freud influenced art and culture in another video too. Having said that, Freud was around in the late 19th century to the early 20th century. Psychology has come a long way since Freud's time, so we will continue our journey to discover what happened during these 100 years with this introduction to psychology videos. Also, there is so much more to talk about Freud and his psychoanalysis that we could possibly cover in this short video. So if you're interested, let me know so I will make more videos about Freud and his discipline. What do you think about Freud and his discoveries? Do you agree with him? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video. ありがとうございました。